Councilman Brannan, thank you for being here on Picks and Politics.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks always for having me.
So let's talk about this. It's important for so many, right? As chairman of the Finance Committee, you now have this very tall task in front of you to go through all the proposed cuts, decide which ones, potentially all of them, right, are necessary for the city to just make ends meet. So I laid out what's on the table. Henry laid out what's on the table. Are you going to vote on this?
So we're having a hearing right after Thanksgiving where we're going to really dig into this. But I think it's important first to zoom out here.
Okay.
The budget gaps that we're seeing now are not a surprise, and they're largely due to the end of the federal COVID stimulus funds. Obviously, the headlines are all about the costs related to the migrant crisis, and obviously that's exacerbated our bottom line situation. But a lot of this really, we're here because, as we've been warning for quite a while, that a lot of temporary money was used from the COVID stimulus funds, and temporary money was used to prop up and expand permanent programs. And now we're facing a fiscal cliff. So that's why we're here. If it was just for the migrant situation, we would not have such a deep cuts to bridge.
Okay, so before we get to the cuts, then let me jump to that, because it leads me to the question, was the city actually irresponsible then in its handling of the COVID funding, setting up programs that it just couldn't sustain once that funding would run out? We knew that funding was not going to be forever.
Yeah, I mean, we've been warning, the council's been warning about this for a long time, and part of this is also at the hands of the prior administration, who used a lot of these flexible COVID funds to prop up programs that are still in existence and now have become crucial to people in New York, and now the money is running out.
Right.
So obviously there's a cliff there. Look, I think it's important, and I agree with the mayor, and the council, I believe, agrees with the mayor in that financing and managing an international migrant crisis is not the responsibility of a municipality on its own. So we desperately need help from Washington, more help from Albany, and part of that is really trying to get them to take this situation.
So but that's what everybody's been saying, right? So and including the council and the elected officials have been saying quite some time, we need the help. It doesn't seem to be coming. So now is where we're at with the cuts. Last time you were on the show, Councilman, you said you would not approve education cuts, but they are very much on the table, or Henry just laid them out for you. So is that still a non-starter for you, or are you going to vote for this?
So I don't think, as the cuts stand today, I don't think the council is going to approve anything. I think obviously the NYPD cadet class cuts are very concerning to us. The education cuts, the sanitation cuts, a lot of this stuff, you have to remember, Dan, this is stuff that the council prioritized and fought for in budget negotiations just a few months ago. We shook hands on these items, and now they're back on the chopping block. So that's something that obviously we're very concerned about. And it's only a few months ago that we agreed on these budget priorities. So this is not something that we're going to take lightly.
So what would then need to change in terms of the cuts for you guys to then vote in favor of it?
So I think we're going to put forward some alternative solutions for ways that we think we could bridge these gaps. I think we're also going to obviously—
Can you give me an example?
I mean, we need help from Albany. There are some revenue raisers that we could do that we can't do on our own. We've said clearly we're not going to do any layoffs. We're not going to raise property taxes on working and middle class New Yorkers. But I think we're also going to make the case, and I think this is important, is that New York City tax revenues right now are outpacing even the most optimistic projections. And we've got record reserves right now that we could tap into. The city economy has proven to be durable and resilient. We've got we've recovered all the jobs we lost during COVID. Tourism is coming back. So this is not a time to be cutting wholesale cuts across the board, especially to things like education and our cops. So the council is going to put forward a vision that shows that we can bridge these gaps without making these wholesale cuts.
And so, when you looked at the totality of it all, right, and you and I have talked about this, for New Yorkers, losing out on police officers, losing out on education services, parents wondering if their kids are going to get into pre-K, losing out on library services that are important to keep kids off the street sometimes, right? They need a library to go to. Are you worried when you look at the totality of the cuts that some New Yorkers are going to say, why am I losing out on services to care for asylum seekers? And then there's going to be repercussions from that.
Sure. I mean, look, we're trying to avoid that. And I think that's part of why we're trying to make clear that we're not here solely because of the migrant crisis. When you set up this us versus them situation where some politicians would be more than happy and already have been taking advantage of that divide and conquer narrative. You can't have it that, look, we'd love to have more cops, but we have to pay for the migrants. That is not the narrative we want. It's also not true. That's not why we're here right now. So I think it's important that the council is going to put forward this vision for alternative ways to bridge these gaps and to show people that we're here because a lot because of mismanagement and because of money that everyone knew was going to run out.
Right.
And now it's actually running out.
Yeah, and a few folks have said, well, look, the problems with the budget did not just come from the migrant crisis. There were problems beforehand, but then you add in the migrant crisis, and a lot of people are now saying, why did they hang on to these for-profit companies to handle the migrant services for so long? Yep. Was there a mismanagement from day one on the migrant crisis?
Yes, I think part of it is because this is not the city of New York. It's not our job to handle a massive resettlement operation. It's the job of the federal government. However, the administration relied on a lot of for-profit companies that build the city for millions and billions of dollars, instead of relying on some of our trusted partners in the nonprofit sector who do this work every single day. So when you're working in a hurried fashion with for-profit companies, of course they're going to build the city billions of dollars because they've got us over a barrel, and now the bill has come due.
And have you had any conversations with the mayor or his administration thus far about going into these oversight hearings, right? About the changes that you're going to be looking for before you vote on the budget?
I think, look, obviously we're playing our cards close to the vest right now, but we're making it clear that the proposals that the administration has put forward are draconian, way too drastic, and just not necessary at this time.
Understood, Councilman Brannan. It is Sunday. Hopefully you had a fantastic Thanksgiving with your family.
Right on. You too, Dan. Thank you.
All right. Take care.